Persephone by JL Mathews. Light's green! Dylan motioned to the stoplight ahead of us with a nod, not looking up from his phone. That guy's still following us, I muttered, checking my rearview mirror instead of the light. Relax, he probably lives around here, Dylan mumbled back. I don't know. I don't like how we've seen him everywhere today. Dylan sighed, resigned to a life with me riddled with anxiety at every waking moment. There's no conspiracy or agenda. He lives in the neighborhood, that's all. Look out! The deer huffed out its last dying breath onto my face, blowing my bangs into my eyes. I tried to move, but couldn't. Something pinned me down. It was only when I made a feeble attempt to push my bangs back that I realized the deer was inside my car. Well, half of the deer draped itself over my steering wheel to gaze into my eyes like a lever turned cold. I had to look away. I couldn't stare into the dead black eyes of the life I took. The other half of the deer lounged across the hood of my small sedan like a pin-up model, save for the violent leg twitching. I swiped at something running down my face. My fingers came away dripping crimson. Was this my blood or the deer's? I stained the sleeve of my cashmere sweater, trying to clear the red film from my eyes. Nothing worked how it should. The blood didn't stop flowing. Dylan, I gasped out, unsure how breathing worked anymore. I turned my head as much as my neck injury and seatbelt would allow. Dylan was no longer in the passenger seat. Who are you? I whispered as my eyes closed and I faded out of consciousness. I couldn't tell how much time had passed. When I opened my eyes again, I noticed the stranger had stayed with me. Who are you? I mumbled again, this time through a thick tongue trapped behind dry, cracking lips. How long had I been here? This was a busy street. Why hadn't anyone found us or called for help yet? Where was Dylan? Didn't anyone miss me? The answers eluded me. Only questions swirled through my mind. Any attempts to move were met with pain, so intense stars blinded me, and my uneven breaths were impeded by a sharp shooting pain somewhere in my ribcage. I am called many things by many people. The passenger shroud in a hooded black cloak made entirely of shadow finally responded. After much deliberation, the stranger added, You may call me Hades. A skeletal hand reached up to push the hood back from the stranger's face. His hands weren't the only part of him without skin. A gleaming skull adorned with a pointed black crown grinned back at me. Maybe the blood all over my face was mine and not the deer's after all. I had to have a head injury to see the Grim Reaper sitting beside me. I don't know why, but the thought of a talking skeleton abruptly became comical. First, one giggle escaped my lips, then another and another, until I was heaving and the giggles became short, raspy attempts to gulp in as much air as my overtaxed lungs would allow. Hades put his bony hand over my shoulder. A warmth overtook me, like I was walking in the summer sun for the first time after years of being trapped in a forced darkness of my own making. I closed my eyes. I no longer feared death, as he was the man who sat beside me in comfort and peace. I breathed in the balmy air, the scent of honeysuckle and overripe berries, and the knowledge that when I was done running barefoot in the grass, my grandmother would be waiting for me in the kitchen with ice-cold lemonade and freshly baked pie. I sighed. Part of me wanted to stay in this memory for the rest of my life. The other part of me knew the rest of my life was here and now, and this was it. I was dead, and the Grim Reaper had come to claim me. I opened my eyes, resigned to my fate, ready to follow death back into the shadows from whence he came. And now, you, he said. My forehead creased, furrowing my eyebrows. "And now me what?" I asked him. He leaned in to whisper in my ear. "This is the part of polite society where you introduce yourself." He pulled back, straightening his spine and adjusting his flowing cloak to settle around him. The shadows surrounding him stirred of their own accord without following his movements. His shadows were the most alive part of him. Yet, this man had come for me, come to claim me. Was I his, or did I belong to myself? Did I ever belong to anyone other than him? "I'm Persephone," I forced out, still puzzled by death attempting to teach me manners amid such carnage. I wiped the blood from my face onto my sweater sleeve again, the fresh blood reinvigorating the already stale hardened spots. A faint hissing noise emanated from the deer's body. Why was I so cold? Oh yeah, I was dead now. "I know." Death laughed. The sound made my heart ache, though I didn't know why. "Well then," I started. "Shouldn't we be going? I'm sure you're very busy." "Where are we going?" He mused, clearly entertained by me for some unknown reason. I didn't think my death was all that funny. "The afterlife, I guess," I responded brusquely. "The living cannot mix with the dead," he explained. "But I am no longer living, am I?" I contemplated my current situation. Blood still oozed from my forehead. My body no longer moved of its own accord, and breathing was too hard, like I was walking on the moon without a spacesuit. "Persephone, I have come to make a bargain." He paused. Could he tell I was having trouble focusing? I forced myself to look death in the eyes and not get lost. He brushed his hair matted with blood from my eyes, succeeding where I had failed moments ago. His touch was gentler than I thought it would be, given his job to kill. No, that wasn't right. Contrary to his name, Death's job wasn't to kill, but to ferry souls to the underworld and their afterlife. Seconds that felt like hours ticked by while I waited for him to continue. He had to be the one to lead this conversation since I had no idea what was going on. Finally, he finished explaining. "You were in a car accident that proved most fatal. That much is true. According to my records, it's not your time. However, fate will not let me keep you alive without someone else taking your place. You see, life and death would not be in balance otherwise. I'm giving you a choice. I can take your father or your brother Dylan instead." My mind reeled. What kind of choice was this man asking me to make? My father or brother? No, neither. How? Why? I squeezed my eyes shut, willing this all to be a dream or the product of a concussion from the accident. "Make your choice, Persephone, or I shall be forced to choose for you." Death produced a gold coin from the shadows. One side had my father's profile, and the other resembled my brother. "Wait!" I grabbed Death's hand, holding his phalanges together, preventing him from flipping the coin. A red string appeared, connecting the ring finger on my left hand to the ring finger on Death's left hand. "Have you made your choice?" He interrupted my train of thought, voice even, betraying no emotion, no acknowledgement that the red string existed between us. I frowned in concentration. What had I read about red strings before? Fate used the thin red thread to unite lovers, right? A way out of this mess began to formulate in my mind. What if... I started, unsure how to finish my thought. Maybe I was completely wrong about all of this. What if... Death pondered, still allowing me to hold his hand. Why did his hands feel warm to my touch? He was a walking, talking skeleton with no skin, no bones, no heart. How did he throw off this much heat between us? My mouth worked faster than my brain, and I knew I couldn't blame my concussion for what I said next. What if... I began again. You took me instead. What use would I have for you? You live. Yet. Death extricated his hand from my grasp. I think fate has other ideas for both of us. I held my left hand aloft, bringing Death's attention to the red string. He frowned. I'm not sure how I could tell Death was frowning without his skin and muscles signaling me of his mood. I just knew. I just knew him. Had I met this man before? I couldn't recall. My left hand forced its way back to him. Death tugged at the red thread somewhat aggressively. He didn't. What's wrong with him? I told fate I don't need a wife. Death murmured, almost inconsolable at the idea fate betrayed him somehow. Was it really such a betrayal if it was destiny? Persephone. My name hung between us like the unsung note of a rooster crow at sunrise. Death turned his body to face me instead of towards the same deserted street where I hit the deer. No, this street wasn't empty at all. Cars whisked past at alarming speeds. Pedestrians walked by the wreckage on the sidewalk, talking and laughing as if nothing happened. Children played ball at the mouth of a cul-de-sac. Why hadn't I noticed them before? I thought we had been alone all this time. Where's Dylan? I hoped it wasn't too brazen to demand answers from Death. Death sighed. In a state of suspended animation, frozen in time just before you collided with a deer. Was this as weird for him as it was for me? Who in their right mind would ever imagine in their wildest dreams they would be the one fated to death for all eternity? I practiced patience, one of the many virtues I lacked when alive, waiting until it seemed like he was ready to talk again. Where are we then? A sort of in-between place where the veil is the thinnest. Normally, the living and the dead cannot converse. We sat in comfortable silence until Death could bear it no longer. You're special, Persephone. No, not special, he faltered. You are something more. More than life. More than death. He paused, seemingly to catch his breath, though I couldn't see how that was possible, given the way his chest cavity gaped in between his ribs. I will make a deal with you. Death clasped my hands in his, warming my skin with his essence. I am in need of someone to help me watch over the underworld. A wife, a companion, a queen. If you marry me, I shall spare your father and brother. He slipped a black band fashioned from the same metal as his crown onto my ring finger. The onyx stone gleamed in the dimming light of the in-between. Persephone, will you marry me? Death placed a light kiss on the back of my hand, brushing my knuckles with the place on his skull where his lips should be. Unless fate was playing a cruel joke on us, Death and I were meant to be together. Do I dare retract my earlier proposition and tell this man no? Do I let him flip his coin and let fate take from me the ones I love most? Death had no eyeballs, no focal point to gaze lovingly into. Yet, I could see into his soul, straight into the man he was then and the man he is now. I squeezed his hand, afraid if I let go, he would be gone forever. I could not imagine loving anyone more than I did this man I just met. I could not picture a life without him by my side, both of us forever unchanging with the passage of time. Yes, I answered back, unable to say anything else. Our lips found each other instantly. The tender way he treated me continued to surprise me. The embodiment of pain and suffering should not be able to kiss with such passion. Bright white light filled my car to capacity, pushing us out to stand in the open night air. The skeleton in burial robes transformed into a slender man in an all-black suit with pale skin and long white hair. This was the man I was fated to be with. This was Hades. And as always, please be sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more awesome stories.